Hi there, it's Michelle Patterson with the Real Share Daily Huddle. My favorite time of the day. And I just asked my guests, I said, why do you think I pick 4:02 to have this call every day on? And I asked Rob and Travis, and they said, what is it? And I said, that's when I was born. I was born at 4:02 p.m. and just celebrating this life and celebrating the gift of togetherness and getting to do life with you guys. You're part of not only my wellness team family, but you are close friends and family friends, and we've been doing life together for quite some time. So I want to just get right into it. And I was talking to Travis, and I'm going to go ahead and start with him, Travis Lewis, who I want to say thank you, Travis, because you are what I believe, all moms need, that do not like to cook and to be in the kitchen. Up until I started working with Travis, I felt like a loser in the kitchen because I don't enjoy it. I don't like it. I'd rather go out and speak to 10,000 people than get up and make a meal for a family because I just don't enjoy cooking. And what has been great about working with Travis and his company, and I'm so excited for you to share with our community what you and your wife have created, but this company where you provide healthy, organic, meals to a specific dietary program that I needed, but also you're able to do that for my family. So you deliver meals every single week, and I think really we're at twice a week now where you're coming.
Yeah, Sundays and Wednesdays.
Say that again.
Sundays and Wednesdays, twice a week.
Twice a week. My family loves you.
Okay, what's funny is I don't always eat the meals from the restaurant because I cook at home, and every now and again I pick some up for myself when I'm feeling lazy. And when I do eat the food, it's so nice just to pop it in the microwave and it's ready. I'm like, dang, this is pretty nice. For a split second, I think about what if I just bought all of my meals from my own company? And then I go, no. You're able to cook, let's cook. And I actually still get enjoyment out of cooking, but then again, I'm also cooking for me and my wife. I'm not cooking for family, so maybe things will change down the road. But for right now, I still enjoy cooking.
So do you do that? Like, let's just say Valentine's Day pops up, and do you find yourself cooking for you and the wife?
I'm
relatively new. You're
yeah. I'm the one that always cooks. And it's not that she can't cook. It's just that when I cook and I make actual meals, not just like quick fix things, she's like, why would I ever cook when you can cook like this? And I'm like, I guess you're right. Like, I get it. And I've just always kind of had that natural ability to cook. Like, I never went to culinary school. I didn't do any special training. I guess I was raised in a family that just everyone can kind of cook. And it's just like this natural sort of like, I can have something cooking not without timers and by like sound and smell. I'm like, oh, I gotta go flip that chicken, or I gotta do this. And it turns out, sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing. I just kind of wing it.
Are you one of those people too that you're doing like seasoning and it's completely by taste?
Sometimes, it's just kind of like I've experimented by taste, and every now and again I just kind of think, well, this with this, let's throw it on there and see how it turns out. And then it works out. Every now and again, you get that one where you cook it and you go, ooh, it's not bad, but I'm not doing it again.
I love that too. And Jacqueline, in fact, Rob Nelson also knows my daughter, but Travis was introduced to me through our daughter. And she goes, Mom, you really got to talk to Travis. He's building out this company. It completely addresses the challenge that you have, Mom. And that is, you don't enjoy cooking. And I got to tell you guys this. I was watching yesterday the podcast for Joe Rogan, and they had Elon Musk on. and he was on just a couple days ago. They've already had 10 million views, and it was definitely off of the first view where Elon Musk was on and he was smoking marijuana, and that shot through with all the shareholders that were out there. And I really, really loved the conversation yesterday. But one of the things that he talked about was, he said that he is giving away like 80% of his belongings. This is Elon Musk. And he says the reason why is because I don't get gratification off of building out a house or decorating a house or moving into a new house. And he says, I'd rather put my time and my energy and my genius, and these are my words, but he said that he would rather put his energy into getting to Mars and to fulfilling his genius and his essence of why he's on the planet. And I thought, okay, that is exactly how I feel in my relationship and working with Travis. I want to focus on my talents and my gifts and build out this conscious community where I'm pulling together the superheroes on the planet. I don't want to be in a kitchen by myself, cooking and putting together a meal when I can have the best of both worlds. I can go ahead and order really healthy food. It's responsibly sourced. I mean, you and I talked about everywhere that you go to in working with your vendors, and that it is organic. And that was something that was important to me as I shared with my community of women who are in the same situation that I'm in. And then I thought, what, this is exactly doing what we're doing. And that is being honest with ourselves and how we want to show up in the world and what it is that we want to be spending our time and attention on. And I thought it was just a great, great example. And the more that we do that, and the more that we can show up and just be true to ourselves and not have fear of being judged or what people are going to say, but just truly showing up saying, hey, I've got a gift and this is how I want to share my gift and show up in the world. And I think it was exactly doing that. And I thought about you yesterday. I was like, that's exactly how Travis shows up for my family.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't set out with like this business idea to like, I want to, the meal prep industry is up and coming, and I got to get a foot in the door and make some dough while it's right now. Doing the personal training, I had clients that, one guy in particular was on a very long weight loss journey for health reasons and the whole nine, and a couple kids, big company, wife, and he was on a treadmill one day and he's just ranting and raving about how he doesn't have time, he doesn't have the energy, and then finally he closed out. He just said, hey, I'm just too damn lazy. And I'm like, dude, you are not lazy. You're busy. You're exhausted. You have a life. Like, I get why you don't have time to cook all this food and prep it and putting it, like, you don't have the time for it. You don't have the energy for it. Like, I was like, what if I cooked for you? And he was like, sure. We tried it out for 1 week. He told someone who told someone who told someone. Next thing I know, I have people, I'm like, I can't cook like this in my kitchen. And then I just by chance met one of the owners of the restaurant we work with now, worked out a partnership, and here we are. It just kind of stumbled into where I am, and we've been going for, I think, 7 months now. And of course, like, right as we're gaining steam and momentum, all these bright ideas and everything, coronavirus is kind of like, bam. So now we're like trying to, I guess, find our gears in this current economy, current situation. People are at home, they're not going to work, they're not going to the gym. So there's still people. We're getting new clients that are ordering and stuff like that because they don't want to cook, or people like yourself who they know the food's all natural, it's organic, it's wild caught, and they're looking for that quality of food. And I worked really hard with the chefs. I shouldn't say fought the chefs on being able to have our meals priced the way they are. They want maximum profit. I'm trying to be able to deliver like a quality meal to somebody. Like, I think that's what got you in the beginning, was like when you're looking at like a wild caught sea bass, wild caught salmon, or all natural skirt steak meal from us, it's like $13.50. And that comes with your meat, some kind of carb, and then your vegetables and everything. And that sort of meal in a restaurant is going to cost you like close to $20. I mean, if not more, especially for the seafood. And that's the chef's argument. And I'm like, yeah, but everyday people can't afford that. And I want that everyday person to be able to afford that. It's more important to me than making as much money as possible off of a meal. And that's kind of how we've gained traction so far, is like, you're more focused on bringing people together and building this community, and I'm more focused on like bringing nutrition to people. Like, I'd rather make an impact in more lives than to make more money, if that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. And that's why I'm so excited to have you guys both on this call together, because that is how you 10X ourselves. It's recognizing I can go ahead and achieve the sit down dinner with my family, where I can be present. We can be having a conversation. We can be eating, a gourmet meal that's prepared, that I would be paying, $20 plus tip, if I was to go to a restaurant.
Yeah,
and
plus tip.
Like you said, $13.50. I mean, it's Eric and I both. I go, this is unbelievable. And because you are pulling your clientele together and being able to go in and work directly with your vendors, you get better pricing.
Right.
And that works. I mean, that absolutely works. So let's talk a little bit to Rob Nelson. And because both of you come from this background of being athletic, really recognizing mind, body, soul, spirit, and how you're pulling this together. I know you were a paramedic for some time, and
about 11 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah. I got a baby face. I tell people that and they go, no, you weren't. I'm like, oh, believe me, I was.
11 years of a high, intense, front of the line position. I mean, and you and I've talked about this before, and we've shared, stories about how we, utilize, alcohol, to numb out because the stress is so great. For me, in putting on North America's largest conferences, it was like it was backwards at times, because I was needing to stress out and have a stress release. And so I would tap into alcohol and use that. And it didn't serve me.
No, I mean, or, being on the rig away from microwaves and stuff like that, working the crazy shifts that we did, you run a really stressful call and you find yourself just like, go for a big double cheeseburger with fries and a milkshake, and your brain wanders to like that, that comfort zone and that lifestyle, the high stress on the go, and you're just constantly tired. Like, I remember I kind of stopped and looked at the way that I was living, the way that I felt, and I realized how like far from healthy I was when I would go to work and advocate to these people how healthy they need to be. And I was like, okay, I can't be telling people to do this if I'm doing that. And I really had to stop and like look at that. And I made small changes. I bought a vegetable juicer. I started juicing vegetables every day. I remember the first time I juiced up, it was a couple apples, some kale, some celery, and like it was like something real simple, and beets. And I put it in there and I drank it. And like the second it hit my system, I felt my body just go, yes. And I was like, there's something to this. And that's when I like started to really find myself moving away from medicine towards like nutrition. I started diving more into like, why does my body feel this way when I put certain food in it, both good and bad? And then that's when I started to learn about how I could do more for someone with food and exercise than with medicine. And so that high stress job had even less value to it for me there. And that started that divide that brought me to where I am now. And I mean, especially with the meal company, hopefully it lets me continue on that path, and expanding it to reach more people than just my face-to-face training clients, because that really limits me. I have more of a passion for the nutrition than I do for the exercise portion of it, honestly. I love that part of it, but the nutrition part to me is so much more impactful, because anyone, health condition or not, if you really find what nutrition works for you and you dial it in, you can sort of like unlock your full potential, so to speak, and actually mind, body, and soul, like actually really, really affect yourself at the core. People really overlook how much food plays a part in like mental health, physical health. I mean, you know, a lot of people that suffer from depression, if you look at the way that they're eating, it's usually not the best. And we find that, like, if you change the way that they're eating, I've done this actually with a friend who suffers from bipolar. I helped her change her diet around, and her mood swings were like this, and we brought them into where they're like this. And the second that she starts going to like Ben and Jerry's ice cream, stuff like that, it starts to do this, and then she reels it in, and then it does this. And she's like, I never thought food alone. I'm like, a lot of people overlook it, but food's, I heard the phrase, you have to treat food like it's medicine. Otherwise, one day medicine will become food.
Oh, I love that comment. And
Yeah.
I think it's so important to recognize, well, first off, you said a lot there that I think is so important. And that is being honest to yourself. I think we get going and, you know, we start, and I know I've done this in the past where I've told people, oh, I'm doing this. And my son Chase actually pointed it out to me. And he says, Mom, you spend so much time talking about eating healthy and getting into a specific routine and diet that you spend all this energy into that versus just doing it. And I thought, you know what, that's a really, really good point. And once I stopped lying to myself and really being honest with everything that went into this body, and it didn't matter if it was a thought or if it was something that I ate, but everything has a medicinal purpose, meaning that I am going to put into my body and into my inner circle, my inner playground, it's going to be filled with joy, 100%. And when I started having that mindset and that thought process, it was hard. I mean, it was actually, it was really, really challenging. And that's why I want to bring up, you know, this is one of our close family friends, Rob and Deborah Nelson, and we have Rob who's on. And I wanted to, because this show is all about the real share. It's talking with individuals that are figuring life out. And when they're figuring it out, they want nothing more than to share with the people they love and with others on what they're doing to navigate through this. We've been friends for, you know, a good decade. We've done many podcasts together. We did one that was at Angel Stadium for quite some time. Rob's participated in my conferences. He also is a mortgage broker, and he just shows up with this mindset of how can I be of service? How can I help you? And really navigate. And one of the things that he has helped me with is that he sends out a column, and I'm going to actually pull it out because I would love for you to hear it. But it says, he delivered me from all my fears. And it's titled God Wins. And he had said, this is my inspiration for the week. And I'll just read you a little bit of it. But he talks about, you know, I sought the Lord and he answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. And he's talking about surviving, and then ... survival mode. And he says, survival mode is rough. In extreme cases, you're trying to just get to the next hour or to the next afternoon, let alone the next day. Fear is the centerpiece, with virtually every thought and every action deployed to starve off disaster. Survival mode clearly is necessary in the moment, but you can get stuck there, allowing damaging side effects from a life that's never restored. What do you do? And I love this conversation that we're having, because I think so often we decide to fill actions and activity within our day that doesn't serve us, doesn't light us up, is not utilizing our God-given talents. We're doing it sometimes because we feel like we have to, we're obligated, As a mom, I'm supposed to put meals on the table and not reach out for healthy options and resources like I did. And for me, in achieving 100% joy into my life, which has been a lot of work, you would think it isn't. But in bringing in joy to my life, I've had to really, really be honest with myself and ask myself, am I doing this because I'm a people pleaser and I want people to like me and I want my family to like me? Or am I doing this because this is the best way for me to show up and use my gifts? And so Rob and I were talking earlier, and I said, Rob, can you pop on this call today, this Zoom call, because you're who I lean into, especially when I look at how you've dealt with adversity in your life and how you and Deborah have just been this powerful partnership in tackling, challenges that you've faced, everything from, losing a child, which I can only imagine, what that looks like, and to, having a challenging business, opportunity. I mean, I've watched you get centered, and it really lifts me up, to be able to have a role model, in you and Deborah, for how you guys conduct yourself and going through life and handling issues.
That's very flattering. I think that it's so interesting. I'm leaning into the conversation already, and I was just listening to Travis, and there's this air of humility about Travis. It's just his natural person. I don't know Travis.
What does he remind you of? He totally reminds me of Tate.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah.
Their son. You remind me a lot of their son.
Yeah, except when my son cooks, Travis, he has this. He's like you. He doesn't follow a recipe. It's all kind of this mixology of your generation, this twisted influence. But he does things where food's flying and seasonings and flying, and it's like you have to have a shop vac to clean up after anything that he cooks. But I
he's
think
a Navy SEAL on top of it. I mean, he's like a top of his class. I mean, this kid is salt of the earth. Really.
Here's the common denominator, though, and this is what I certainly know in you, and I see in Travis, and I want to believe that I have this gene in my soul as well, which is just intentionality and being purposeful about what you're doing. And it's not just meandering about. I know that when I said humility, I was thinking about how Travis cooks, and he says, well, gosh, I really don't follow a recipe, or I'm not measuring things. And I from my personal experience, I've enjoyed culinary artists from around the world, and the most unbelievable meals that I've had in my lifetime are made in just that sense base and that feel base and that taste base. And it's not just, okay, half an ounce of this and a half a teaspoon of that kinds of measuring your way through creating what you create. So I'm certain it's far more intentional that you're admitting to us, just in terms of how you prepare food and how you pour yourself into it. And so I kind of, in my own way, in the things that I'm interested, go about things very similarly. I'm very intentional about what I'm doing, but I'm not following the 16 steps to optimism or the 32 ways to do this kinds of prescriptions. They're much more about, how do you move forward? You make progress by stepping forward. And just like you said, sometimes you step forward with a preparation of a certain meal and you go, swing and a miss, right? And then other times you go, what I learned from the swing and a miss is spot on with the next time I made that particular dish. And then you're on it and you go, genius, as Michelle would say. And so I find myself in the same thing. I've pursued a lot of different disconnected campaigns, an eclectic background of things that I've engaged in my lifetime. But they all have that same, how do you get started? You lean forward, you're intentional about it, and you take that risk. And there's the risk component is you're okay if you just make a bad meal sometime. You're okay with it. And then you go, all right, what would I stop doing? What would I start doing? What would I keep doing and moving forward with the next prep? And then you're onto it. You've solved the riddle kind of a thing. And I look at what Michelle's doing, with this broadcast. And it's very much the same sort of, Michelle, it doesn't surprise me at all the kind of individuals and personalities that you attract. There is that common denominator of people that, gosh, I want to improve and I want to feel good and I want to live out what I say, not just be the coach that says, do as I do, or do as I say, not as I do kind of a thing. To your point, Travis, I was thinking of the analogy of the dentist with bad teeth. It's not really much of a testimony, right?
Yep.
So all that to say, it's really fun to be around the two of you, and Michelle and I do have a rich history together, and have kind of just pursued things in that context of all right, what doors can we kick down? What kinds of things, if we hit those layers of no, then we go, oh, we're onto something. 67 no's later, oh, look what those no's have emerged into in your business platform, following a career. Most people would go, gosh, I'm 11 years into, as a paramedic, and I'm on my career path, or maybe I'm halfway through my career, and you bridge from that and look at where life's leading you, and you're in a great spot. Okay, COVID-19 shows up, but guess what? Everybody has to eat. And so you're in a great space in that everybody needs you, and that's a good spot to be in.
Let's talk about this some more too, because what do you do when adversity pops up? I think that really is the deciding factor. Based on what your response is, you could either decide to go down a path of struggle and work through it and have that struggle, or you can decide, what, this is telling me something. Let me be quiet. Let me listen into this. What is it that I'm supposed to be learning? I love Oprah's comment. She'll say, okay, what am I supposed to be learning, God, in this situation? Now get me the hell out of it. Get me out of it. But how do you, Rob? Because I've watched you and Deborah go through stuff, and interestingly enough, the first party that I had to say no to was your 60th birthday, and it was Friday, March 13th.
Yeah.
Right? Am I right? Friday, March 13th.
11th. Yeah, that was the birthday party, but yeah, the birthday's on the 11th. The alleged 60th birthday party. As I like to say, 30 twice baked.
You were 30 twice baked, celebrating your 60th, and we were scheduled to go over. You had people flying in from all over the country for this big 60th party, and I reached out to Deborah, and she said, "You know what? I don't think it's a very good idea. We want to see you, but with your compromised immune system in dealing with your diagnosis, I don't think it's a very good idea for you to come over." And that was the first time. And I literally, we were all dressed, ready to go. And you hopped on the phone with me and you said the same thing. You're like, you know what? We want you to be safe. And for us to be safe, we've got folks that have flown in from out of town. So they've been on an airplane, and we just don't think it's a good idea. And I remember thinking, well, that sucks. I'm so bummed. I was so sad. And that was the beginning of us being in quarantine, together.
Yeah, it was the Tuesday following that we all got shut down. But I think that in answer to your question, I don't know, when I think about adversity, and I've, I don't know why, but Deborah and I have faced tons of adversity and crushing adversity and a volume of adversity and a frequency of adversity where you go, all right, come on, enough's enough kind of a thing. But I think that the common denominator of what we've done is to go at adversity. And I think that's probably the first step is you have to go at it. And so many people get lost trying to go around it or under it or over it or backpedal away from it or to medicate it, which is, I probably have done all of those things, but none of those actually get you through adversity. They create maybe a relief or a release or a moment that you go, okay, it's not there, only to find out that adversity just doesn't evaporate. You have to go at it. You have to go at it directly. And the balance is just like what you said, where there's that aggressive posture of, okay, I'm going to go directly towards adversity. But at the same moment, have those moments where you do get quiet and you do pause and you do listen for direction on, all right, you're going to have to pivot here and twist there in order to go directly at adversity and get through it. But
do you ever get pissed? Do you ever get just this? Because again, having, been one of your close friends and seeing your family, go through this. I mean, I just, one thing that came up for me, and you hear individuals, that will say this, is God only gives you what you can handle. Mm-hmm. And I thought, when I heard that comment, I thought, you know what, I don't even know if I want to even hear anything, from anybody, because I would be in this state of pissed. And, and I look at, again, getting the stage 4 diagnosis when I went in, and I had gone twice to the doctors, and they kept sending me home saying it was a pinched nerve. It's not what you think it is, Michelle. It's a pinched nerve. And I knew it wasn't. And that's why I kept going back. But did you ever get to a place where you just wanted to shut out and not hear, any kind of comments like, God only gives you what you can handle? And it's like, no, I'm frustrated. I'm angry. I don't want to handle this. I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah, I think, yes, with an asterisk. I know that, you talk about challenges and the grief that comes out of these challenges, and the X number of steps of grief, and one of them being anger. And I don't have an explanation for it. I've experienced every element of grief except for just flat out, okay, I'm angry with life, and it hasn't, for whatever reason, and I don't have an explanation for that. I know that I do get fatigued, like we all do, with the common coaching. In a silly illustration, if you just go through a breakup, the last thing you want to hear is that there's other fish out in the sea, right? And whether and in Christianese, okay, there's open doors and closed doors, and this is for a greater good. Yeah, I get tired of all of those kind of platitudes that really don't do much for me. But I haven't gone through just the cuss and spit and angry kind of environment. I've just looked at it in the context that I don't want to run from it, because I don't want grief as an example to be my anchor my entire life. I don't want to drag that through life. And so I know one of the decisions that Deborah and I made when we lost Haley, our daughter, was that we wanted to again hit grief head on, so that we could feel it and face it and soak in it long enough just to begin the steps to heal from it and not have it define who we are. The last thing and Deborah would say the same thing, the last thing that we want to be known for is, the grieving couple. What a moniker to carry around. That to me is just a sentence more than is anything. And so, not to minimize in it, and I don't think, in my estimation, there's any worse grief than that of losing a child. But I think we've grieved in a mighty way, in one that, not just brought us to a knee, but brought us face down on the floor, overwhelmed by the magnitude of it. But we've gone through that, and we've grieved in a healthy way. And I cite, just our marriage as an example. I mean, we just had our 30th anniversary at the end of 2019, and it's probably, if not the biggest one of the biggest, single greatest moments to cross a 3-decade relationship in the face of losing a child, and where those parents that lose children typically have, or statistically have, an 86% divorce rate. It just, the atrocity of that, the graphic, experience of that, it implodes marriages. And so you see not only the death of a child, but the death of a family. And it's, to me, that's awful. And so I look back at that and I go, golly, yeah, we've grieved in a mighty way, but some way, somehow we're together. I'm still sleeping indoors somehow, kind of.
Kick you completely outside.
Yeah, even when I've run away.
She moved you in from the porch. You're now.
And Deborah still kind of likes me a little bit, so that's all good. But those are, I think, those when you look at adversity and what do you do with it? And I've never been the advocate of deny it, run from it. Even like what's going on with COVID-19 right now. And I'm not in the medical field, but I don't know the full success of a sustained retreat. There are times to retreat for sure. But just to assume that we're going to now live life in retreat, trying to manage risk, it's not reality. Life has risk. And there's things that, I got to drive home after we spend time together on this broadcast. And there's risks out on the highway, and the government's not going to control those. For all of us, there's going to be these risk kinds of influences. And so I'm not an advocate of just grabbing the white flag and backpedaling as fast as I can and go, okay, that's the new normal. And so I don't subscribe to that. And so the new normal, I'm trying to coin a new word. I don't even know what it is. I hear new normal passed around like, it's the describe all of every situation. Maybe I'll come up with numal. It's a new word. But I think our difference of how we're going to live is still pressing forward. And yeah, there's going to be deviations and new habits, new ways that we do things, but it's in a progression of moving forward, not retreating or stepping sideways, and certainly not medicating our way to managing COVID-19.
I want to talk a little bit about your comment in just how you showed up and really looking at how people were showing up for you during that time period, because we've talked about it where there was individuals that couldn't be a part of your life because for them it was too painful. They didn't know how to communicate. I felt that way with the diagnosis, individuals that would meet with me and not know how to just talk to me. And it was always about the cancer. And I very much didn't want that to define me or to live in that space. And so what would you tell individuals that are, interacting with their family and their friends that are going through a tough time, that maybe want to avoid the situation and just run from it? Because you did the complete opposite, in my opinion, to the point where you made it safe for my family to ask questions, to talk about it, to celebrate Haley. We just celebrated her birthday. And so for me, you took out that stigma and took out the pain and really celebrated, this beautiful life.
Well, and I think that the best description is what you said. You show up, because this question comes up a lot. And as we went through the days and weeks following losing Haley, it was we saw all sorts of different reactions because people don't know what to do. And in Haley's case, it was a tragic loss of life, and one that self-imposed. She committed suicide, and so people don't know what to do with that. And certainly we didn't know what to do with that. And because of that, it created different reactions. Some people would see us in the aisleway, opposite side of an aisleway at the supermarket, and back up and go to the next aisle because they didn't know how to, interact or confront or talk about kind of a thing. Others ran from us in the context of, they had daughters and they don't want to catch the suicide virus, for their daughters, as silly as that sounds. And yet others, and really the most powerful testimonies, are those that just showed up, like you said, without having to do something or fix it or know what to say, or here's the 3 steps of getting over this atrocity, kind of a thing. They just showed up. And I golly, so many examples. I mean, I think of a close pal of mine that, where there were times where, I'll tell you the story of a close friend, Lynn Stinson. And we have
I love Lynn. He's so amazing. He moved away because we haven't had our breakfast time together.
Yeah, he's in Tennessee, but here's the before and after of how you just show up. And, it's scary. It's scary. But I remember calling him, and I was in my car and I was having just a breakdown. I was probably swerving side to side, but I was just overwhelmed with emotion. And I reached out to him, and it was just like, I don't know what to do. And it was during the workday, and I was driving back to my office, and I get to the office, and sitting on the curb in front of the front door of my office is Lynn Stinson. And so he just showed up, didn't have, like I described, answers coupled with him or solutions or anything. He just showed up. And that's kind of been the journey of our friendship as we've gone through these different trials. And the fast forward to it is that there was a time where one of his children was in a struggle and was battling depression. And he was, hearing all the whispers from Satan on, golly, maybe you'd be better off if you just ended things. And getting tricked down the path of potentially another suicide. And there, as a backlash to that, I went to Lynn and I got into his kitchen about this. And I thought it was going to be the end of our friendship. I was so scared. It was one of the most scary moments of my life where I confronted Lynn about, gosh, you need to step in as dad and take action with his son that was in a far more dark space than he could see. Lynn's the consummate optimist, and so he's always looking for what's right, not what's wrong. But it was blinding him to the what his son was wrestling with. And the fast forward to that is that he did step in, and he did intervene with his son, and his son is not only alive today, but vibrant and just this developing young man that is found his way into music, and he's authoring songs, he's writing songs, he's performing in music, he's developing up as a young musician. And it was all because of an intervention that I almost didn't do because I was scared that I was going to lose one of my most trusted friends, one of my closest relationships. So I think it comes full circle about, okay, what does showing up look like? It's going at something that is scary and icky, and you don't have the answers. You don't know what to do, but you show up and you move towards that adversity.
Wow.
Powerful moments. And it's and these are, kinds of the storylines, when I talked to Lynn about this, and from the day that we lost Haley, from moment one, when she crossed over the finish line, we collectively talked about, gosh, we want Haley's life to matter. And so here's the legacy component where Lynn's son, it's a legacy of Haley. His life matters. Haley's life mattered because it gave me the strength and conviction to go in a space that I wasn't comfortable with, that I was scared about, that I was intimidated, that I wanted to do just the opposite. I wanted to back up. I wanted to go the opposite direction. Maybe perhaps even acting out in a way, what was being, I was being teased with was perhaps what, some of the people that didn't know what to do with us, and they submitted to that. I don't look at those things that we experienced and go, oh, they're a bad person. They just didn't know what to do. And so in that environment, avoid. Fight or flight, they chose to run, and it was just, and I've done that, and I'm not even saying that this in a sensational way, like I've never done that. I've done that with a very close friend of mine that was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, ovarian cancer, and she was dying from it. And when she was hospitalized from it, I was scared to go to the hospital. And I didn't go to the hospital because I didn't know what to do. And it left that life impression, that thumbprint of, okay, I learned from that. I learned what not to do. And this is a cherished relationship, a cherished friend. And so I think the fast forward, it just resonates. How do you get into the food preparation business? You just go into it and you start figuring things out, right? How do you begin a podcast that's growing exponentially, an audience that's leaning into the experiences that you have and the guests that come in, raw and real, and you just do it. You just started. You didn't go through.
You just do it, and I think this is such a good conversation to continue to have, especially. And when Travis, you talked about this early on, is people's diets, and depression is up at an all-time high, and suicide is up at an all-time high. And again, we all have that ownership and that responsibility of our response. And my big push is to tell people, don't do it alone. Like, right. It's not fun. It's overwhelming. We're not made to be everything to everybody. I mean, we really truly have these gifts, these spokes in a wheel, and that's what comes together. And, and I see it, Travis, with the way that you talk about your wife and how you light up, that she's this rock for you. And I get asked often, it's like, Michelle, in creating joy in your life and really being this proponent of creating joy, what's the information that you're getting back? And it's this conversation where, Rob doesn't claim to have all the answers, but he is definitely not going to run the other direction. He's literally running through adversity. And, that's why I'm so excited for you guys to know each other as we build out this conscious community, especially with men. I think right now is men who are building these families and going through, challenging times, is we think that we have to have all the answers, and to the outside world, everything looks great. And if we ask for help or we ask for support, it's a sign of weakness. And it's just not that.
It's Satan's number one tool of terror, as I call it, in terms of that go it alone mindset. And you get this in the corporate community and corporate coaching, the old adage, if it's going to be, it's up to me. And I think that is just so flat out wrong. And the reason I call this Satan's tool is exactly what any predator wants to do, is to have you separated from the pack. And you're isolated and you're alone and you're weakened and you don't have defenses. And that's exactly where Satan wants you, where he can attack. And you don't have that community to push him back and to repel him and defend against him. And so that go it alone, men are clearly tricked into it, but it's not gender specific. Men are I think, tricked into it more times than not, just from a ego stance. You've got to be carry that sense of bravado and one arm out, chest puffed up, I'm surging ahead, kind of, I'm a man kind of posture. But women struggle with this in such a mighty way. And I think for all of us, it's fear-based. So many women go it alone, with another pandemic of sexual assault and abuse and bullying. And they're the recipients of this. And then they somehow, some way trick themselves into thinking like, I can't tell anyone. And I just have to soldier through or buck up or, persevere. I mean, there's all sorts of descriptors, but they get trapped into this, I'm the only one that knows. And I think the very first thing in all of these kinds of circumstances that you have to do is to run from going it alone and take this pack mentality, this community mindset. And just like what you've done with establishing this wellness team and your health and recovery from this stage 4 conviction that was first rendered to you. Like I think that the comment was you have X number of days left when you were first diagnosed. And if you recall the conversation when you and I talked about this, you and I made a lunch date for the day after your last day that was prescribed of saying, no, I'm not going to submit to that. And you surrounded yourself not by just a physician or a counselor or a nutritionist. You have this posse, this committee of people, all experts in their individual fields that are collectively pouring into you and contributing into you, Travis included. What's that fuel that's going to recreate health and restore health and fight the cancer and eradicate the cancer from your system? And I'm looking at just, how your body has morphed over the last year. You are a different physical being than you were a year ago.
I tell Eric, he has to listen to me. I'm like, I got hotter. I got smarter. And
there's less of you.
Yeah, I feel not only am I surviving, but I'm thriving. And I go back to Travis, your comment earlier in making a decision to go after what's saying to your heart. You were a paramedic for 11 years and you had said to me, it's like, I wanted to do something different. I wanted to really, really show up in this capacity. And I feel like you could tell somebody is loving on themselves by the life that they've created. Truly.
Well, everything you guys have talked about up until this point really leads into like where I'm at today, because when you talked about earlier, fear and obligation, and it's vivid. My 4-year mark in my career, I was afraid to leave my career and start something else, and I felt obligated because I was providing a service to mankind, and I was really good at being a paramedic. And I was afraid if I left, I was like going to squander God's gift or some kind of thing, because I had hands for the job and the mind for it and the soul for it, because it tears at your soul every day that you show up and you put that uniform on. It really does. And for about 7 years, I climbed into depression and I just sealed it all up, like you talked about as men. It's the bravado and it's you don't talk about it until I just couldn't hold it in anymore. And I finally opened up and talked to one guy about it. But at that point, I'd already reached just such an unhealthy level in my life. And then something I didn't see coming was my car accident, which I had the traumatic brain injury, couldn't walk, couldn't talk, had to relearn how to read and write and do all that again. And there's a vivid moment where I was trying to walk with a walker, and this older gentleman with his Vietnam veteran's cap and his cane walked past me as I was dragging my feet, and I was like, this is so effed up right now. And it was when I felt like I had nothing, and I was at the bottom of depression, and I was relearning to walk, and I was trying to get rehab to the hospital, and I had my whole life taken from me, so to speak. That's when I had to really kind of, as you said, sort of withdrawing, sort of just regroup real quick and just figure out, okay, where do I go from here and how do I do it? And rather than just going home and sitting on the couch saying, woe is me, I can't go out and work, or no, I got a gym membership, and I would go to the gym and I'd rehab myself while I studied being a personal trainer, and I learned all these techniques and I rehabbed myself. I chose a new career path, and then I didn't just go work for someone else. I started my own company, my own personal training, my own nutritional coaching, all that. And then I said I had nothing to lose. So what's the worst that can happen to me if I fail? Nothing. I got nothing to lose. Let's go. And then, and I did it. And then that is how I met my wife, was at one of the gyms. And she's definitely put in my life for a reason. And we've been great supporting roles to one another. And then I find myself, bam, with this opportunity to do this meal company. And everywhere where my weaknesses are, she picks up in that company, and vice versa. And just everything I have today just came from being at a moment of complete despair and having nothing and just saying no. And then, like you said, just leaning forward. And then just there's days along the way where you want to stop and you maybe want to go backwards, but you just regroup again, lean forward again. And and that's where we're at now. And, COVID's the newest setback. We haven't lost everything. We're still here. We still have another day. I'm pretty confident I'll wake up tomorrow, and we'll just lean forward again. And that's the best way I've heard someone say it is just lean forward, just put one foot forward. And
it's contagious too, working with and that's what happens too, is that we can go about it however we choose. For me, and having you part of this conscious community, I want to tell everybody, it's like, this is how I'm bringing joy into my life. This is how I am showing up for myself, and not saying, complaining because I'm stuck in the kitchen. No, I'm doing something about it so that everybody in my family is happy, myself included. And I'm doing the things that I want to be doing, having the meals that I want to be having with my family. And for me, knowing you and the business that you're creating, and knowing that that's all made from love. I mean, it's truly a love fest, what you're doing. Knowing that that's made from love, all I want to do is be able to introduce you to the different people that I'm interacting with, because you're a good egg. You show up with this huge heart and approach things that way. I look at the other night when you stopped over and you had Liliana Partita, my nutritionist. That's over. And there we were sitting in the kitchen, around the kitchen table. I'm breaking out my camera. Rob, you would love this.
Yeah, you kept recording us.
I kept recording them. Yeah. Liliana is talking about the trampoline. Travis is talking about the different meals. Her daughter also is a chef. And so we're just talking about how we can play together in this playground of life and do what fills us up, do our genius, be happy together, and just look at, what is it all about? It's not about the stuff we have or the toys. I mean, it's truly about the game of life, and for us to be able to show up together and play together. And I realized this last year is I get to decide on who I want on my playground. And I also decided, there was times where I was the bully on my playground. I wasn't the best advocate for me. And the realization of that, and just saying, no, I am going to show up not only for others like I've been doing, but I'm also going to show up for myself. Yeah. And with that, I have loved having you guys on. I love how transparent the both of you are. And I feel like the adversity challenges that you've faced are so beneficial for others to hear how they can not only get through stuff, but also, do it on their terms, create the life, that they really want. So thank you. Travis, how can we get a hold of you? I want to make sure that we share that information.
You can either email me at travis@emsmeals.com, and I can even give my personal cell phone number. It's area code 843-343-7279. It's my personal number, so I'll go straight to my phone. I'll talk and text to whomever about whatever, even if you just want to talk about the weather. So, especially since I'm cooped up in the house more often than not now, love some conversation.
Well, and I will say this, he and my husband talked. My husband set it all up, and Eric is our CPA, and he's our accountant in the house. And I made the introduction, and you guys set it up, and we got the biggest plan that we could possibly do. And it's just been a true lifesaver. And Rob, I cannot wait. I know both of you are going to be on the show again, but we just didn't want to let this day go by with just having friends talk about what we're doing to not only get through this, but thrive, truly thrive.
Nice.
So, all right, you got the music. Nice, Connor.